Hello there. I'm John Oliver, amateur astroherpetologist. As you may remember, 2 weeks ago, Vladimir Putin sent a veritable bang bus full of lizards into space and then quickly lost touch with it like an old college roommate. Well, we here at Last Week Tonight leapt into action, launching our now famous #GoGetThoseGeckos global awareness campaign. People across the globe united behind our hashtag in a way they hadn't since the era of #True Detective Season 2 and #This Could Be Us, But You Playing. Luminaries in their fields joined the chorus, from fake president Julia Louis-Dreyfus to international businessman Richard Branson to fake astronaut Patrick Stewart to actual astronaut Buzz Aldrin. Even 12-time WWE champion Randy Orton tweeted our message of reptilian justice, which we did not entirely understand until we realised that Randy Orton's nickname is the Viper, and Vipers are basically born to go get geckos. It's in their DNA. And also our non-professional wrestler viewers, they pitched in as well. You took to Twitter and Instagram to spread the word. You emailed the Kremlin directly. And apparently, given that their website didn't crash, the Russian government has better programmers than the FCC. That's the good news. That is the good news. The even better news is that it worked. BBC News, another news organisation that operates primarily on accent-based authority, you laughed a little too hard at that, has verified that Russia has regained communication with their interstellar orgy-mobile. Ladies and gentlemen, we did it! We did it! The geckos have been got! Now, I don't want to take too much credit here, especially since they were apparently rescued before our show was even broadcast. So let's just say I feel mostly responsible for the safety of those cold-blooded little machines. So please, using the hashtag #WeGotThoseGeckos, spread the word of our triumph, because this is just the tip of the iceberg, people. Now that the geckos are okay, there's nothing we can't accomplish as a species. We can usher in a new era of peace on Earth. We can dedicate our resources to education and scientific research. We can cool it with all the gritty reboots of 90s cartoons. We can do all of these things. So thank you, viewers. Thank you, professional wrestlers. Thank you, astronauts, both actual and fictional, for making the world a better place. Unless, of course, the geckos die before they get back to Earth, in which case we are completely f***ed. Thank you so much. Please join us Sundays at 11 on HBO for a new, mostly lizard-free episode of Last Week Tonight. We got the geckos! The geckos got! Woo! 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 Hello there, I'm John Oliver, and welcome to the YouTube page of Last Week Tonight, which recently passed the 1 million subscriber mark. And I think of YouTube subscribers the same way I think of Pogs. I recently acquired quite a lot of them, and I'm not exactly sure what they do. And yes, you heard me. I did say I recently acquired a lot of Pogs. That market is due for a rebound, you watch. But look, 1 million of anything is an awful lot. It's more than twice the population of Sacramento, and roughly half of our nation's total number of Dropkick Murphys. And I'm excited to be a YouTube millionaire, because 1 million of anything is pretty impressive. 1 million it's like the Ryan Gosling of numbers. It's fairly uncommon, and it's cool to be involved with. Plus, the zeros kind of look like abs. 1 million is a lot of things. It's a man march, it's a dollar baby, it's the number of little pieces in a largely fictionalised addiction memoir. And, of course, it's a song by John Legend that includes the line, "I kiss your neck, and you know what comes next? Sex." Yeah, we get it, John Legend. We all know how foreplay works. Although, Frankly, I think you're skipping a few steps. After the neck, it's the back, etc., etc. I don't remember, but that's not my job. That's not my job. I'm not an R&B singer. Yet. But it's coming. Anyway, it is nice to finally have as many subscribers as comments that say things like, I hate John Oliver and his fake audience. So, thank you for subscribing, fake audience. No! Thank you for subscribing, fake audience. Goodbye. They're f***ing angry with you now. Hello there, I'm John Oliver, host of Last Week Tonight. We are off the air this week because, to boost ratings on HBO, I plan to murder and dismember a friend of mine. Apparently that's how it works now. Anyway, this season, I'll do it. What are you applauding for? What are you encouraging? Anyway, this season, we've covered the tobacco industry, voting rights in the American territories and our country's infrastructure. But right now, I'd like to talk about a serious problem, April Fool's Day. April Fool's Day is to comedy as St. Patrick's Day is to Irish culture. That is to say, it is a mockery of the very concept that usually ends in a fist fight. But you may not know that April Fool's Day was actually invented by FDR in 1934 as a way to raise national morale during the Great Depression. April Fool! That's not true at all. I made it up. You trusted me and I betrayed that trust. I betrayed you. Isn't betrayal fun? That felt bad, didn't it? Well, now, I want you to sit in that terrible feeling for a moment. Because you may have been laughing on the outside, but on the inside, admit it, you were sad. Now, well, first of all, welcome to my brain. Second of all, I'm sorry I did that to you. That was a prank. And pranks are terrible. Anyone who claims to be excited for April Fool's Day is probably a sociopath. Because what they're really saying is, I cannot wait to hurt the people close to me. I can't wait. And if you want to break your family's hearts, don't play a mean trick on them. Just ask them for money for another improv class. Do it, done. And you can do that any time of year, and you will shatter them. Now, not to mention, we don't need a special holiday to disappoint our loved ones. We do that enough on every other holiday by accident. OK, Nana, when are you going to yell Christmas fools and give me my real present? This sweater is an abomination. But that being said, I want to help you have the best April Fool's Day ever. So close your eyes right now. Do it. Close them. And visualise the greatest practical joke you can possibly imagine. And now, never do that thing you thought of, ever. Don't even tell anyone you thought of it. You're a monster. In fact, let's do this properly. Everyone watching this, please raise your right hand and take the Last Week Tonight No Prank Pledge. Repeat after me. I solemnly swear that on this April Fool's Day, I will not post a fake engagement photo on Facebook like some kind of arsehole. Nor will I perpetuate a celebrity death hoax. Because that makes people sad. In fact, I will not play any practical jokes. And if I see someone planning a prank, I will say to them, hey, you're being a dick right now. Stop being a dick. Look, we'll go back. Say to them, hey, you're being a dick right now. Stop being a dick. Stop being a dick. Seriously, stop being a dick. Thank you very much for taking the Last Week Tonight No Prank Pledge. Hopefully, with your support, we can restore the original meaning of April the 1st, the day we traditionally look at our calendars and think, oh, shit, I really have to do my taxes. Oh, shit. Last Week Tonight, we'll be back next Sunday with an all-new show. Till then, thank you for watching. Hello there, I am John Oliver, host of Last Week Tonight. We are still on hiatus this week, and please know that wherever I am right now, I am badly sunburnt. Even if I've been inside the whole time, I'm still badly sunburnt. But we wanted to give a quick back-to-school video for the many students who are returning to school to prepare you for the upcoming academic year. And I will try, therefore, not to swear for the next few minutes. But frankly, after a year and a half of being on HBO, I honestly don't know if that is f***ing possible. So, whoops. So, let's go class by class. First, American history. Listen, the only thing you need to learn about this is something that they are almost definitely not going to teach you, and that is Warren G. Harding's love life, which, believe me, was spectacular. Seriously, Google Warren G. Harding penis named Jerry right now, and you will not be disappointed. Although to do that, you may have to switch Safe Search off. So let's move straight on to world history. You are going to hear a lot in school about European explorers and colonists. Now, as adults, you will realise that these men were basically genocidal lunatics. But for now, enjoy thinking of them as thrilling adventurers and discoverers. You will also learn that Africa and Asia are places, but that's about it. You will leave school knowing as much about those two continents as I know about actor Penn Badgley. You'll know it's something that exists in the world, but you won't be able to give any facts about it other than the general shape. So, let's move on to math. You're going to be repeatedly told you need this when you grow up. That is bullshit. You will need addition, subtraction, multiplication and division, which, where I'm from, were called the original Fab Four. But that is it. I'm an adult with a job, and I cannot remember if a logarithm is some kind of exponent, Kenny Loggins' first album, or a method of lumberjack birth control. I don't know. So, ignore it. Just ignore it. And move on. Biology. Let's talk about biology. You may have to dissect a frog this year, in which case, if you do, the most lasting lesson will be what frog embalming fluid smells like. You will never forget it. Seriously, you will forget your first kiss before that stench leaves your nostrils. Let's move on to chemistry. This is going to be disappointing. Unless you have a really good teacher, you probably won't even learn how to cook meth. And that's really all anyone's in it for. And finally, English class. This was my favourite, because it's basically just essay writing. You can't be wrong. The biggest mistake you can make is forgetting who dies at the end of a book. So we have made a handy guide to who dies at the end of things. So this will help you. For example, at the end of Mice and Men, Lenny dies, also some rabbits, and a woman with rabbit-like qualities. At the end of Romeo and Juliet, both Romeo and Juliet die, but you actually don't feel that bad about it. In The Jungle by Upton Sinclair, lots of animals die, and so, in a way, does the American dream. In The Great Gatsby, Gatsby, George, and Tom's mistress all die, and the American dream does too. And at the end of Death of a Salesman, spoiler alert, the salesman dies, but in a plot twist, he was the American dream the whole time. You genuinely do not need to read any of those right now. In fact, you've basically just graduated your upcoming high school year, so enjoy your well-earned time off and join us September the 13th when Last Week Tonight returns on HBO. Goodbye. Hello there, I'm John Oliver, host of HBO's This Week Right Now, or whatever the f*** it's called. We are off this week, but we wanted to quickly address one absolutely huge story.
Naturalists are predicting a big summer for cicadas in the Northeast.
Big, noisy, and numerous, cicadas are set to emerge again from their unusually long reproductive cycle. The ones coming out of the ground this summer were conceived in 1999.
Yes, the cicadas are coming. And this latest batch have been hidden from the world since 1999. And if they're anything like humans conceived in 1999, I'm guessing all the girl cicadas are named Madison and the boy cicadas are named Tyler. Sadly, they won't have much time among us. They'll live for 2 to 6 weeks, mate, and then die. And so that they don't waste, that's an odd thing to whoop. But, so that they don't waste too much time catching up on what they missed, I just want to take a few minutes now to get them up to speed on what has happened in the last 17 years. Welcome to the new millennium. Welcome to the new millennium, cicadas. A lot fewer people are calling it the Willennium than we thought they would in 1999. First, let me catch you up on politics. We voted in a second President Bush by a narrow margin and rejected a third President Bush by an enormous margin. As for technology, we've made a lot of strides since 1999. For example, the internet no longer screams in agony as you dial into it from your phone line. In fact, you might well be watching this on YouTube, which is a video distribution platform where teenagers become famous for playing video games and opening boxes. In sports news, the Red Sox finally won a World Series, making their fans somehow even more insufferable. And Michael Jordan, while still possibly the greatest basketball player ever, is now someone that we mostly make fun of because he cried one time. In terms of pop culture, and brace yourself because there are some big surprises here, Dr. Dre is now a multi-millionaire electronics mogul. This guy won a Grammy for Best Rap Song. The curly-haired guy from NSYNC is one of the biggest entertainers in the world. And the lead singer of R&B group Destiny's Child is essentially our queen now. On your knees, cicadas! On your knees before the queen! Oh, and some things that were very popular in 1999 have become a lot scarcer, such as carbohydrates and Cosby Show reruns. And finally, and amazingly, we all just stopped paying for music and porn, and I think we've gotten away with it. So frankly, that should be it, cicadas. You're pretty much all caught up. Enjoy the world while you have the chance, because to be honest, depending on how things go in November, this planet might not be around in another 17 years, and I do not have time to explain that to you. Thanks so much for watching. We will be back next week. Goodbye. Hello there, I'm John Oliver, host of Last Week Tonight. We are off this week for Easter, but we wanted to give you a special message while we're away, and to do it in one of YouTube's most entertaining forms. I'm talking, of course, of YouTube conspiracy videos. Science fiction for people who don't understand they're watching science fiction. Whenever I see a YouTube conspiracy video, I am overcome with jealousy. I mean, first, there's a wave of this guy has to be fucking kidding, right? But then it's jealousy at the sheer scale of imagination required to believe that the Denver airport was designed by the Illuminati, or that Katy Perry is actually John Benet Ramsey all grown up. Both real theories, by the way, and better than any joke I could ever devise in a million years. Now, of course, any great internet conspiracy video needs two key things. One, a wild claim that something we take for granted is actually the responsibility of robots, aliens, or US presidents who are also robots or aliens. And two, you need an eye for incredibly specific detail and an ability to make wild accusations with complete confidence. So that is why tonight I'm going to make my own YouTube conspiracy video and take on a topic that no one has had the guts to explain. I'm talking, of course, about the conspiracy behind Cadbury cream eggs. And if you mean, are you talking about why they aren't available year-round? Then they have already gotten to you. Turn this off now. You're a tool of the establishment and you're too far gone to wake up. The rest of you, open your eyes. Open your eyes, America. The Cadbury cream egg is a terrible candy that tastes like mermaid placenta covered in candle wax. And yet, every year, these eggs show up in January like newly signed gym memberships or movie theatres full of films that will never win Oscars. But why? But why does this happen? That's the question. And the reason is simple if you just follow the money. The average Cadbury cream egg sold in the US weighs 34 grams, the same number of streets in Miracle on 34th Street. A movie which takes place on Christmas. What's the most memorable Christmas gift of all? 5 golden rings. Of course, gold. Now, Europe's largest supply of gold is held by Germany. Germany is one of the sites where Freemasonry took hold. And where is the Cadbury Corporation based? That's right, the United Kingdom, which is only a quick and affordable flight from guess where? Oh yes, Germany. Now, you might be asking at this point, John, what does gold in Germany have to do with candy in Britain? That question is a false flag. I ask you again, cui bono? Which, as we know, is Latin for why is Bono everywhere all the time? Because that is the connection here, musicians. Here is what they don't want you to know. Cadbury cream eggs were originally sold as Fry's cream eggs. Oh, why did they change their name? What were they running from? Maybe their true identity. Fry. F-R-Y. 3 letters. 3, like a triangle. Now, take a cream egg, cut it in half, and put it in that triangle. What does that look like? The Illuminati eye of Providence Pyramid. I'll give you a second to recover now, because I just blew your mind. Because clearly here, open your eyes. Clearly here, Cadbury cream eggs appear in our stores for the financial benefits of Illuminati elites such as Jay-Z, Beyonce, and Al Sharpton. Now, I have no idea if any of that is true. In fact, that's wrong. I'm pretty sure most of it is completely false. But it felt amazing to say, and it almost made sense. And that is what YouTube conspiracy videos are all about. Thank you so much for watching. We will be back next Sunday on HBO with a new episode of Last Week Tonight. Until then, go to bed, sheeple. It's late. Open your eyes. Open your eyes. Hi there, I'm John Oliver, and I'm here with Cookie Monster.
Hi!
Yeah, it's very exciting for me because I'm a big fan of this guy.
Oh, really? Well, you know what? Me, big fan of you, too.
Well, that's very nice of you, Cookie Monster.
Yeah, you know, me never miss you show. Me love it.
Well, that's amazing. Thank you. Thank you. I
But,
appreciate that. Thank you.
Me do have some ideas, though. You know, maybe for stories.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
These big stories.
Okay, give me
Just
them.
huge. You ready?
I'll get
Okay.
them. Yeah.
Oatmeal cookies. Good breakfast food or only sometimes food?
Okay, that's not quite the area that we're looking at.
Okay,
so-
how about this one?
Okay, sure.
Okay. Why do sugar plums only dance in me head, not in me mouth?
Okay.
See what me mean?
I
That
do see
hard-hitting story.
I do see what you mean. I'm not sure if
Yes.
that kind
Or-
of lends itself. Okay,
We got another one.
go for it.
When will science find a way to turn crumbs back into cookies? This brilliant ideas, scientist stepped up to plate.
So, okay,
Let's go.
Okay,
Let's make this happen.
That's a plea. That's good. It's interesting stuff. It's not quite what we're looking for. We're mainly here to remind people to watch our special report on words.
Oh,
Yeah.
On words. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Brought to you by all the letters of the alphabet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and viewers like you.
Also brought to you by Sesame Street and Mashable.
Oh, yeah,
that's exciting, isn't
Wait,
it?
we got one more.
Okay, go for
Okay,
it.
why don't they just make a whole cookie out of chocolate chip? See what me saying?
You
Am me the only one who think about this?
no, you're the only one that goes into it at this depth.
Me think this could go deep into story.
Okay. Look, I admire your passion.
Me hitting hand on table.
That's
just
what
go
drives
deep.
it home. That drives it home.
Yes.
There is no point which is not emphasized better with that.
Thank you.
Why are passwords so important? Or why is it important that we have better ones than the ones that we do have? Because the ones that we do have are embarrassingly bad.
Bad passwords are one of the easiest ways to compromise a system. For somebody who has a very common 8-character password, it can literally take less than a second for a computer to go through the possibilities and pull that password out.
For an 8-character password.
Right.
My password is 5 characters. That's not a joke. That's bad, right?
That's really bad.
Okay, so which of these seem like good options? Password, but spelt W-E-R-D.
This is a joke, right?
No, yes.
That would be within normal password dictionaries, permutations of common words.
But it's misspelt though, so that was the kind of tripwire on it.
Right, it's still 8 characters, even if it's not within your password dictionary, which would mean it would be
All
fairly
right,
true.
okay. It's a bad one. That's why I got some more. 1, 2, 3, 4, but spelt out.
That's not going to help you.
Okay. Limp Bizkit Forever with Limp Bizkit spelled properly, but forever not.
That's also not going to help you.
Okay. Really?
I think the best advice here is to shift your thinking from passwords to passphrases. Think about a common phrase that works for you that's too long to brute force, and also make them unlikely to be in the dictionary.
Admiral Alonso Ghost Penis 420 YOLO.
That's pretty good.
Right?
It's memorable too.
Right, it's memorable. It's got all the other things you like characters and numbers. YOLO capital letters, obviously. I shouldn't say, now I can't use it.
It can actually be a lot harder to remember a password that they tell you has to be 13 characters long or something like that. It has to have exclamation points, it has to have numbers, it has to have uppercase and lowercase letters and things like that, than it is to remember a simple phrase like Margaret Thatcher is 110% sexy.
Wow. That is a password that not even a computer would guess. Now, you're right. Okay, I get it. I get how important it is. I fully understand that. The problem is, I'm not going to do it because it seems hard, even though I know it isn't.
You're killing me.
Sorry. Hello, I'm John Oliver, host of Last Week Tonight. We're still off this week, but we wanted to check in with you regarding the presidential election, or as it's now better known, Uncle Sam's Rock Bottom Yankee Doodle Suicide Pact. At this point in the year, our field of presidential candidates are racking up endorsements. Hillary Clinton has been endorsed by Gloria Steinem, Stevie Wonder, and Oprah, who you may remember I recently replaced as the queen of daytime talk. In your face, Oprah! In your face! Sorry, Oprah. Meanwhile, Donald Trump has been endorsed by Kid Rock and Stephen Baldwin. A Baldwin you think about so little, you didn't realise that's not Stephen Baldwin, that is Stephen Baldwin. Now, Trump, to be fair, Trump has also received endorsements from an angry owl in an abandoned barn and the sound of a motorcycle peeling out of a White Castle parking lot. So that's good, that's good. Now, in the spirit of the season, I personally am ready to make a few endorsements as well. Not for president, of course, I know because of my accent, the only elected officials I can endorse are prime ministers, viceroys and magical railway controllers. But that doesn't mean there aren't things outside the realm of politics that I would like to formally endorse. Starting with, obviously, animals wearing people clothes. I officially endorse you. You are charming and a wholesome delight. Unlike people wearing animal clothes, which is generally a specific sex thing. Now, in the same vein, I will give my unqualified endorsement of interspecies friendships, like these dog and goat BFFs, and this unlikely pairing of Tilda Swinton and a human from Earth. You are both endorsed. It is official. I'm also happy to get behind gingham shirts with ties that you wouldn't think go, but somehow kind of go. Take it from me, by the way, you really want to get someone to pick those out for you, or you are f***ed. And finally, I would like to endorse Pushing Tin. Yes, Pushing Tin. The air traffic control movie starring John Cusack and Billy Bob Thornton. And I'll tell you why. Because if you are looking for a snooze in the middle of an overcast Sunday afternoon, pushing tin will knock you the out. Endorsed. Officially endorsed. That is all for now. We are back on July 24th. Goodbye. Hello there, Internet. I'm John Oliver, host of Last Week Tonight, except this week I have been relegated to YouTube, like some kind of piano-playing cat. I would like to take this opportunity to appreciate and respond to some of the fan mail that we have received. It's not literal mail, of course, because I host a television show in 2014, not a farmer's almanac from 1842. So I will be replying to several comments from the Last Week Tonight YouTube page. A few weeks ago, for instance, we did a story on America's nuclear arsenal, and the discourse it set off was... Let's just say it was full of words. A YouTube user actually wrote, and this is very touching, "I don't even understand why the audience is laughing," which I hope was a comment on the seriousness of the subject matter and not a referendum on the comedy contained. Either way, it cannot possibly be more hurtful than the comment on the same video reading, "John Oliver's face does look like a parrot." Now, there's a lot to feel uncomfortable about there, but primarily there's the word "does." Like he's agreeing with someone. Yes, good point. That man's face is rather parrot-like. Why isn't this TV show more about wanting crackers? It makes no sense. Make cracker jokes, parrots. Do it, parrot. Moving on, for instance, more recently, a viewer wrote to us regarding the practice of native advertising in the news, saying, "Unsubscribed when the shit talk on Code Red started. When you mock the second best cherry soda, you done goofed." Now, listen, I done goofed before, but not in a dog's age. In fact, the last time I done goofed this bad, I reckon the corn was as high as an elephant's eye. But if you are willing to abandon this show because I made fun of your second favourite cherry soda, then goodbye, sir. Goodbye. You shall not be missed. Anyone who has a second favourite flavour of cherry soda probably also has a second favourite smelling brand of gasoline. But my favourite comment in recent weeks was this one from the very same video, which was in Spanish, and it really touched me to think that my comedy had crossed the language barrier. Finally, I thought, I truly understand what it means to live la vida loca. Until that is, I went to a Google translation page and pressed translate and saw the message was Spanish for "son of a bitch motherfucking shit like you see on TV makes me sick the world." Which, even if the translation was clunky, is certainly not a compliment. And now, finally, because we do not want to leave you on a negative note, here's one last comment from YouTube saying, "This guy is brilliant," which that warmed my heart. Because finally, someone saw me for me. Because brilliant is exactly what I am. If you are mistaking me for doing anything other than... if you're mistaking me, for instance, for doing something brilliant, you are frankly not paying any close attention to what I'm saying. So we will be back in September, on the 7th of September, at 11 p.m. on HBO, by which point this video will have undoubtedly amassed enough hateful vitriol for us to film a follow-up. Thank you so much for watching. A special thanks to our YouTube commenters down there. You are all brilliant, every single one of you. We'll see you in September. Goodbye. Hello there, I'm John Oliver, host of Last Week Tonight on HBO. Although here, I'm on YouTube, like I'm about to give the least anticipated makeup tutorial of all time. I'm sorry, but now is not the time that I share my patented contouring technique. which I call John touring. It's about blending, it's about blends. It's about blending the makeup, is what I think it is about. Now, we're off for a few weeks, and in the meantime, I thought I would do one of our periodic reviews of this show's fan mail. Now, of course, no one sent me actual mail because I'm not currently fighting in the Revolutionary War. Or as they call it where I'm from, the war of, well, we've still got Canada. We've still got Canada. So, now, as always, our fan mail comes in the form of YouTube comments. The most cogent written argument for never learning how to read. I would like to share some of my favourite comments, not all of which are hateful. In fact, one viewer even wrote, John Oliver has magnificent eyebrows, which I appreciated, and I'll tell you why, because no one has ever called any part of my body magnificent. Ever. But then I got a little confused when I saw that someone else had written, John Oliver's eyebrows are alien caterpillars and move independently of each other. And I thought, well, that's okay. That's okay. That does still technically fall under the umbrella of magnificent. There's no more magnificent eyebrow than one that is sentient and moves independently. So you know what? Sorry, Cara Delevingne. I'm the new queen of eyebrow thickness. Step off! Step off, Cara! Now, the problem is, things went steadily downhill from there. One commenter said, John Oliver looks like a mix of a Pokemon and a child molester, which made me a little mad because there is already a mix between a Pokemon and a child molester, and it's called Gengar. Look at that creep! Look at that creep! But the most discouraging thing I saw was a comment that read, at least you serve your corporate masters well, unfunny live-action beaker, which was incredibly discouraging because... mainly because I was annoyed that I hadn't thought of that myself. I don't mind being insulted by commenters, but it really hurts when I'm out-comedianed by them. Honestly, many people who try to insult me on YouTube have badly missed the mark. For example, someone wrote, he's aged so much, which is just not an insult. It's merely an affirmation that I've continued to succeed at my #1 life goal, not dying in a significant way. That's something I've been consistently good at since I was born. Another comment simply described our show as uniquely boring, which, again, is not an insult. It's not. For something to be both unique and boring is a true feat. It's a phrase that I would reserve for something exceptional like a Ken Burns documentary about snails. But of all the comments I read, one stood out above all the others and really made me feel good about my career choices. And that comment laid out a challenge I'm prepared to take on, because this comment read, John Oliver, I bet you $1 zillion that you won't feature this comment in a video. Well, touche, anonymous YouTube user. Pay up. Pay up. And to the rest of you, I will see you never. I don't need this shit anymore. I'm a zillionaire now. Last Week Tonight returns on the 24th of July, unless I can't find a place to dock my new yacht. Until then, you're all monsters. Goodbye. We're here with Fareed Zakaria talking about the Indian election. It is exciting. He's a transformative candidate, Modi, but, and there is a big but, and that but took place in 2002.
Right. So the but is nearly... The but is not just about what happened in 2002. It's that he comes from a very extreme, hardline kind of Hindu nationalist background, something called the RSS. This was the organization, one of whose members shot Mahatma Gandhi in 1948. So it has a long past of having been fairly tough on minorities, particularly the Muslim minority in India. 2002, Modi was the head of the government of Gujarat, one of the states in India. There were riots. And in those riots, 1,000 Muslims died. And it was alleged that he, as the head of the government, either encouraged or ignored the fact that the police were actually actively assisting in the kind of vigilante violence that ended up killing 1,000 people and, of course, displacing tens of thousands. his actual role seems to me a little bit less clear. There are investigations that have cleared him from it. The best I can tell of it, it's like those politicians in the South in the United States during the Civil Rights Movement where they knew what the police was going to do if they didn't actively,
Right.
So it's a sin of omission where he didn't tell the police, go out and kill anyone, but he knew by not restraining them, bad things might happen. So it's a little murky, but it's something he does have to get over if he is now prime minister of all, 1.1 billion Indians.
Right, but it's a sin of omission with 1,000 dead people at the end of it. That's the problem, isn't it? And yet, incredibly, I was seeing that there were Muslims in India who voted for Modi anyway because they thought he would be stronger on the economy. And at that point, is that not the final example of elections are just about the economy? He can have killed or been involved in killing your people. You think, well, if the stock market goes up, he is the best for the job.
Well, it also shows you how frustrated and aspirational Indians have become. Frustrated by the fact that they were growing at 8% a year and then it dropped to 5%. I know this doesn't sound like in the United States to say, well, we're only growing at 5%, but India is, of course, a very poor country. And so to go from 8%, where you thought you were kind of entering the ranks of the Chinas of the world, and all of a sudden for that whole thing to collapse, huge problem. And again, the Indian media, as you showed, is very lively, very vigorous, and
they're awesome.
They're constantly showing you, this is what you could be living like. There's a kind of Bollywood aspect to the Indian news media, which is insane. But it does feed that kind of aspirational class.
I'm telling you, they are one sentence away from just all collectively bursting into song. But it's, now,
just so you know, India has 15 languages. Only about 15% of India speaks English. There are 18 all-news channels in English in India. 18. We have got like 3 in the United States.
You're welcome. Now, but Modi and 2002 poses a problem for America diplomatically now, because he was banned. He had a visa revoked here. So he's not technically allowed into the country other than on state visits, I imagine.
Well, as it turns out, technically, because he's prime minister, he can get what is called an A1 visa, which is a special category. So he's got to get out of jail free pass.
That's fantastic. So if you want to visit Disney World, just become prime minister, and it's all yours.
Exactly. But you're right. For 10 years, he couldn't come here as a private citizzen, even as the head of the state government, because he was on this list. The list, though, is very bizarre.
Right.
It's a list of one person. It has only ever been used to keep this one person out. And as often happens with American foreign policy, it's more like kind of an incoherence and accident that produced it. They set up this commission on religious intolerance. The commission was charged initially from outside the United States. They were like, you're just worried about violence against Christians. So they were like, no, we're worried about violence against everybody. The riots happened in Gujarat in 2002, and they're like, you see, we don't like violence against Muslims either. They name him. They've never named anyone else. And
wow.
And there's been a lot of religious intolerance in the world in the last 10 years.
People have earned the right to be on that list. Well, there should be some justifiably disappointed dictators going, hey, what do I have to do?
Exactly. Well, you look at Maliki, the prime minister of Iraq, our man. I mean, that government has been associated with death squads, with reprisal killings, and then, of course, you have Saudi Arabia.
Of course.
Need I say more? Right?
That is the perfect thing with Saudi Arabia, isn't it? And then there's Saudi Arabia. Let's just let that hang in the air.
Well, it's had two great exports over the last 30 years: oil and religious intolerance.
Mm-hmm.
And,
That's right. Yeah, it is. It is the landmass version of an asterisk, that country. So he has a huge mandate, Modi. What is he expected to do with it?
All he talked about while running, and he ran one of the most disciplined, really brilliant campaigns, was just all about development and good government. Development and good government. People tried to get him into the anti-Muslim stuff or Hindu nationalist stuff. He never bit. He never went there. He would just keep talking about. He said at one point, "I'm more interested in toilets than in temples."
Yeah.
Meaning, I'm going to build. India famously does not have a lot of toilets. And people who visited noticed that some of that activity takes place outdoors. And so
Right.
this is, but that was really the whole message was about development. And I think if you look at Gujarat, his state, he's been pretty good at that. Gujarat has grown faster than China in the last 10 years. And this is a state of 60 million people, so it's not trivial.
But I think you've hit there on the absolute key problem with the whole thing. When you mentioned the toilets and temples, because there was even a cartoon public health information video in India trying to teach people the importance of using toilets, and it went viral. And that, I thought, must be the perfect distillation of the potential and the challenges in India for Modi and governing India ahead, because India it currently has an economic disparity so vast that you've got 50% of people with a dangerous lack of access to toilets and the other half watching viral videos about that problem on their iPads. There's a spectacular wealth disparity there.
Well, and especially at the top. So India has, I forget, it's one of the 5 or 6 countries in the world with the largest number of billionaires. And yet, the per capita income in India is, I think, still under 2,000. And just to remind people, the United States is more like 50,000. So it's still a very poor country, but with the haves really in an extraordinary... The haves in India, the top 10% or 5% live like people do in Western Europe. And then you have the bottom 30 or 40% who are still living on essentially, under $3 or $4 a day. It's a huge disparity. And his challenge is going to be to try to provide the kind of growth that China has been able to do, which required, often very, very determined government policy, which is tough to do in a democracy. But that's the promise. Because, China's development in some way is a model for no one, because most dictatorships are not that competent. I mean, people often say, wouldn't it be great to have a Chinese style? Yeah, but how do you know you're going to get the Chinese? Most people get, Marcos or Mobutu or some crazy African guy who wants to build a temple to himself.
Yeah.
And if you could be guaranteed that you'd get the kind of Chinese-style technocracy, that'd be great. What India represents is a democracy that might actually make development work and figure out a way to get growth. So it's much more transportable, right? If the Indians with their crazy, messy, colorful democracy can somehow make the right choices and get economic growth, well, then Indonesia can do it and Brazil can do it, Whereas the Chinese, it's like, well, yeah, maybe we should get the Chinese to run every country. That's not really a viable model for the world, though the Chinese might like it.
I was going to say, that's not a viable model, but that's probably where we're headed. But that's what we said. Everything about this election was fascinating to me. Not even just the result or what the projections of that result are likely to be, but the process itself was incredible. 814 million registered voters, and the Indian Election Commission mandated that there had to be a polling station 2 kilometres from every place where people were living, meaning that they were putting polling stations up on the side of mountains.
And the results were tabulated, because it was all done electronically, faster and more authoritatively than the elections here.
Well, that's what...
No hanging chads.
Exactly.
No butterfly ballots.
And in terms of fighting for access for people, it's an antithesis to... You look at the voting rights laws that are going on here. They're putting polling stations on the side of mountains. In Texas, they would be proposing laws building mountains between voters and the polls. There was something so inspirational about it to me.
That is one of the things, growing up in India, there were so many crazy things. It's a crazy socialist period when I was growing up, particularly in the 70s. They were nationalizing banks. There were so many things that you felt sad about. But this was the one piece of India that was always so inspirational, that, these poor, illiterate people not only could vote, but wanted to vote, demanded to vote, and understood the issues from their point of view, and did it repeatedly. And there's never been serious violence. There's never been anyone who's contested the results. In other words, the loser has always accepted them. For a country, again, that's one of the poorest countries in the world still, that is an inspiration.
It really is. It's so exciting to me, because the possibilities seem potentially limitless.
And that, by the way, maybe the British have something to do with the tradition of parliamentary democracy.
Yes! We did it! We did it! If we take nothing else away from this evening, I'll take that as a verbal thank you letter. In fact, there's this. So we did our first show. We did a whole big section on the Indian election,
saw it, yeah.
and it was seen quite a lot in India, and there was a bit of pushback in India with people being angry, saying the map over my shoulder was drawn wrong. And to that I say, I'm British. That's impossible. If the map is like that, that's just the way the map is now. I can't get it wrong.
It was probably the piece of Kashmir, the part that is contested between India and Pakistan. So when I got as a kid my copy of the Encyclopedia Britannica, which my parents had bought for me, I can't remember, I think my 14th birthday or something, the page with the map of India was blacked out by the Indian censors. So it's like, you can't take a look at this. You know, it's just too horrific to see.
I can't thank you enough for being here. There's nothing that is not fascinating about the whole election, and I can't think of anyone better to talk to about it than you.
Thank you so much.
I really appreciate it.
Great show.
Fareed Zakaria, ladies and gentlemen. Fareed Zakaria. Hello there, I'm John Oliver, professional swear word sayer. Now, on my show last week tonight, I tried to provide the fairest, most accurate commentary possible, whether I'm covering the state of America's deeply flawed prison system or the state of Kansas's sex toy auction. But look, sometimes I do go too far, and in the grand tradition of television personalities who've made mistakes, I would like to offer a condescending, half-hearted apology that I don't really mean. Now, you may remember a while ago I started a social media campaign to tackle what I thought, at the time, was a pressing issue. I'm speaking, of course, of my hashtag #NotMyChristian movement. Now, it was designed to... No. It was designed to protest the casting of Jamie Dornan as Christian Grey in the upcoming 50 Shades of Grey movie. Now, look, I'm sorry if anyone was offended by my incredibly accurate evaluation of the casting choice for a movie whose target audience, going by the trailer, seems to be suburban mothers of three who have somehow never had sex before. My point was not that the sex in the 50 Shades trailer was as erotic as watching someone drop an unpeeled carrot into a paper bag. Oh yeah, it's a thing going into a different thing. Oh yeah! That was not my point. And my point was also not that Jamie Dornan, who I'm on record as saying is #NotMyChristian, is particularly wrong for the part. My real complaint is Hollywood's unimaginative casting. When it came time to cast Christian Grey, a character described by 50 Shades author E.O. James as the epitome of male beauty, they found an actor who specialises in handsome. And I guess what I'm driving at is, it hurts not to have even been asked. Because, sure, you pass me over for the epitome of male beauty, but whenever you need a Caucasian foreigner or a cheerful weakling, suddenly my phone's blowing up. And that is why, right now, on YouTube, in front of all the world's teenagers and their fun aunts, I am going to record my audition for the 50 Shades of Grey. Yes? I'm going to record my audition for it. I'm recording my audition for a movie that's already been made based on a book I have never read. So here goes. Here goes. Let's do this. Hello. I'm Christian Grey. Epitome of male beauty. According to Wikipedia, I'm ready to take a young woman on a journey from frumpy nerd to fully realised sexual being. This is a thing that I, Christian Grey, feel totally comfortable talking about and doing. Maybe I'll tell her to let her hair down and stop wearing paint-stained overalls all the time, or maybe that's just the plot of 1990s teen comedy She's All That. Either way, it doesn't matter. Either way, I'm presuming this is all going to end in butt stuff. Thank you. That's it. That's my audition. So, thank you. I think it suddenly got extremely hot in here or extremely cold. I don't know. But look, in order to show how serious I am, I will now shackle myself to this chair using 50 Shades sex handcuffs I bought at auction last week. I will stay at this desk until I've been cast in the inevitable 50 Shades of Grey sequel. I said I came to apologise, so I will. I'm sorry, Jamie Dornan. You have made a powerful enemy this day. We'll be back in February with new episodes of Last Week Tonight, and who knows, maybe I will still be chained to this chair. Goodbye. Goodbye. There's nothing to... Goodbye. Hello there, I'm John Oliver, host of Last Week Tonight's YouTube channel. We were off this week in observance of Independence Day, or as they call it where I'm from, the Day of Colonial Aggression. This past week, I'm guessing, brought Supreme Court rulings, international conflict, and 7,000 total hours of Major League Baseball games, or in layman's terms, 3 Major League Baseball games. Take that, America's pastime! But the most important story from the past 7 days was, of course, fireworks. We in America love fireworks. Why? Well, because they're like sparkly guns you can shoot at the sky. And that is why Last Week Tonight has brought you comprehensive coverage of every July the 4th fireworks display that happened this week. First of all, parking was a nightmare for you. There were several spots that looked like spots but turned out not to be spots. The experience brought couples of 20 years to the precipice of divorce. Classical music was playing because everything seems like a cultural event when there's classical music there. If they played Vivaldi at monster truck rallies, schools would start taking field trips there. The fireworks themselves proceeded mainly as follows. One red one, exploded. Then a blue one, it also exploded. And then a white one followed and also exploded. Then, of course, red, white and blue all at once. That's fireworks' greatest hits right there. There were a bunch that went like... and there was one that went... and that last one's my favourite. I love a slow explosion. It reminds me of watching video of John McCain over time. But there's... then there were some more regular ones. At this point, the spectators began checking their watches, and then towards the end, a whole shit ton of fireworks all went off at the same time, almost as if the guy running the fireworks said, "Fuck it, let's do them all. I've got American Idol DVR'd." The classical music then reached a crescendo and stopped abruptly, allowing all those in attendance to hear the terrified yelps of all the children and pets nearby. Everyone then applauded like the fireworks were going to take a bow. Then they all stood up, walked back to their terrible parking spots and made the silent agreement not to think about fireworks at all until next 4th of July, when they perform this exact ritual again. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what makes America great. The ability to wholeheartedly embrace excitement while letting disappointment and failure slip away as quickly as you can. That's it. Shotgun yourselves a can of Bud Light. USA! 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 We'll be back next week at 11 with a keep chanting! Keep chanting! We'll be back next week with a new episode at 11 o'clock. Until then, chant patriotically at home. We'll see you. USA! USA! Hello there, I am John Oliver, host of that show you've heard some things about but haven't gotten around to watching yet. You think it's called Last Night This Week, or maybe Yesterday Right Now. Don't worry, you'll Google it later. Now, a few weeks ago on this show, you may remember this happened. Presidential clemency has always been controversial, from George W. Bush commuting Scooter Libby's sentence to Bill Clinton pardoning financier Mark Rich to, and this is true, Abraham Lincoln pardoning a man convicted of attempted bestiality because the man was intoxicated at the time. The man in question, John Wilkes Booth. It's true. It's actually not true, but if it had been, that would have been amazing, right? It would have been amazing. And you can read more stuff like that in my book, Stranger Than Truth, John Oliver's 101 Favourite History Lies. There is absolutely nothing more fun than lying confidently about history. Lying is incredibly fun. In fact, the only thing that feels better than lying to someone is lying to someone, then regaining their trust, and then lying to them again. Studies have shown it produces the same effect in the human brain that cocaine does. Actually, there was no such study, but it felt great saying that out loud, so it just seems like a fact. So we are actually producing that book. Next spring, it will be released as a hardcover volume by Simon & Schuster, who I chose to work with given their wealth of experience printing the factual-sounding bullshit of Mr. Dr. Oz. So you knew they could do it well. Now, in my book, you will find plenty of plausible but unverifiable nonsense, such as the fact that, due to a severe horse allergy, Paul Revere spent most of his famous midnight ride sneezing and vomiting into the streets. It's a fact. You'll also see the fact that Irish step dancing was invented by the farmers of Cork County, who used to kill pesky field mice by strapping slabs of wood to their feet and rhythmically clobbering them to death. Which, yeah, it really makes you see river dance in a whole new way. You'll also learn that in order to prepare himself for important telephone calls, Winston Churchill would gather his highest-ranking officials to watch him tear telephone books in half. And while we're on the subject of European leaders, we'll confirm that Catherine the Great did die while having sex with a horse, but what many people don't know is she was pegging the horse at the time. She was pegging that horse at the time. And one last fact. Just forget about it. Forget about it! One last fact. Just wipe it away. One last fact. Did you know that in 1980, Saddam Hussein received a key to the city of Detroit? That is not in the book, because remarkably, that is actually true. I know that you don't trust me anymore, but trust me, it is true. So I hope you enjoyed just a few of my favourite history lies. For the complete list, purchase my book when it comes out in April 2016, except there is actually no book. That was another lie. This entire video has been a total waste of everyone's time. If you want to waste some more time, please join us again September the 13th, when Last Week Tonight returns. Until then, trust nobody, especially me. Trust no one. Hello there, I'm John Oliver, host of Last Week Tonight, the HBO series containing the fewest games and least impressive thrones. We are off this week for Memorial Day, but we wanted to briefly check in to run a new segment by you, because on our show we often ask the question, how is this still a thing? Which we inquire in an effort to understand why we're still subjected to things like daylight savings time and the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition. But tonight, in the interest of innovation, we'd like to do the exact opposite of that and pose the question, how is this not a thing? Because while there are many things in this world that should no longer be things, there are also many non-things that should absolutely be thingified, brought into the thingsistence, if you will. You know, like an all-dog version of the Blue Man Group. Or, exactly. How is that not a thing? Or a universal safe word for getting out of small talk that's run its course. Strawberries! Strawberries, please! Strawberries! Stop! I cannot hear about your kayaking weekend! Strawberries! Strawberries, brilliant! Strawberries now! But we don't have either of those things, nor do we have a way to wink without looking like you're proposing a threesome. Or Ambien, but for getting through the part of the day when you're awake. And I wanted to know, why not? Just as I want to know, when is science going to get around to inventing a biodegradable treadmill that starts to break down after a month of misuse and disuse? It's environmentally friendly and it saves you the humiliation of selling barely used exercise equipment on Craigslist. But we have failed to pursue those dreams, just as we failed to create a house key that cries like a baby if you're about to leave home without it. And perhaps most frustratingly of all, why do we not yet have bread pants? Which are, of course, sweatpants, but made of bread. In my experience, if you're wearing sweatpants, you're probably concurrently eating something messy like a big plate of nachos or a fistful of hummus. Now, with bread pants, if you spill, you don't wash the pants. You simply tear a piece off the leg and you eat that too. How are those not a thing? How are those not a thing? How are bread pants not a thing? And finally, how is there not a search engine built just for parents that lets them search terms like the guy who's on that show we like and oh, she's married to what's-his-face? Because the answers to both of those questions are always Mark Harmon and Blake Lively. That is all for now. We'll be back on June 5th when we will return to be covering things that already exist. Thank you very much. Good night. Hello there, I'm John Oliver, host of Last Week Tonight. We're off this week for the 4th of July, but I wanted to make a video to wish everyone a happy Independence Day, or as they call it where I'm from, July the 4th, and that's it. I do hope you have a great day of resting, barbecuing, and preparing to explain your weird tan lines to your co-workers on Tuesday. I fell asleep outside with my hat on backwards, and now my forehead looks like a sunset. But I'd just like to take a quick moment to remind you of what you're missing out on by celebrating your independence. Because, as you know, since 1776, you've done very well as a nation. But it might be worth thinking about just a handful of things that you gave up when kicking Britain unceremoniously out of this country. Because first, there is the matter of your accents. These beautiful vowel sounds could have been yours. But instead, from sea to shining sea, you speak like you just burnt your tongue on a hot apple pie. You are also missing out on bowler hats, which are perfect for dressing your head like an circumcised velvet penis. And that is not even mentioning all the cuisine that you lost. For example, meat pies, which are a lot like British people themselves. A hardened outer layer gives the impression of composure, but under the surface, it's just a hot f***ing mess. But the thing that Americans are really missing out on is pessimism. Americans are optimistic people who believe the sky is the limit, whereas in Britain, we are painfully aware of our limits. In fact, just look at the British sky itself. Even the sun is incapable of asserting itself there. British people never make the mistake of developing self-esteem because no matter what we achieve, deep down we know we'll never be as good as the Queen, which is to say, an elderly woman who frowns for a living. So just take a moment on this July the 4th to think about all that you left behind, and I think you'll realise, honestly, you are probably way better off the way that things are. Thank you so much for watching this. Do enjoy your holiday. We'll be back on HBO with a new episode on July 24th. Goodbye! Hello there, I'm Premium Cable's John Oliver, although if you don't read internet news sites, you probably know me as... Oh, he has a show now? Really? OK. But if you're a regular Huffington Post reader, you may recognise me as the man who tore apart FIFA, verbally pantsed Dr. Oz, and pulverised fictional Canadian Caillou's stupid bald head into dust. Now, to be fair, they didn't say that last one, but I did do it, and I'll do it again. For shit's sake, Caillou, at least get a hobby, you cheap Charlie Brown knockoff. OK, that feels good. But right now, I'm going to widen my swathe of destruction, or to put it in terms the internet will respond to, what happens at the 2-minute mark of this video will amaze you. Because the internet does not know how to describe things anymore, and tonight I'm going to take on pinatas, or as they should be called, the Trojan donkeys of diabetes. First of all, and this is important, pinatas. They teach children that animal cruelty is delicious, which, yes, often it is, but we're not here to talk about factory farming. If you're going to give me candy, just give me the candy, OK? Don't make me go all Joe Pesci on a papier-mâché SpongeBob. OK, SpongeBob doesn't owe me money. He didn't disrespect my family. But for some reason, we're trick-or-treating execution style at my nephew's birthday party. Now, at this point, you're probably thinking, hey, John, stop. you have demolished, slammed, eviscerated, decimated, and teabagged pinatas. But you would be wrong, because that's not what any of those words mean. Up until this point, I've just made some deservedly mean jokes about them. But now, for the sake of accurate internet headlines, I will literally destroy them. I will destroy them, okay? Okay? You want to see me literally destroy pinatas? You'll get it! And look, more or less 2 minutes, just as I predicted. Thank you all for... Did that look as cool as it felt? Thank you all for joining me for this epic pinata takedown. We will be back on HBO Sunday, September the 7th with a new episode of Last Week Tonight. 30 minutes of news that will change how loosely you are willing to define the word news. We'll be back. Thank you. Hello there, I'm John Oliver, host of HBO's Last Week Tonight, and also banned for life from the set of HBO's Ballers. Call me, Dwayne. We can mend this fence. We're off this week, but I'm here on the internet to do the most internet thing imaginable, and that is complain about superhero movies. Every year, the market is flooded with movies about superheroes. Just this year, blockbusters included movies ranging from Mean Spider-Man to Sad Man versus Super Sad Man to The Insane Clown Posse Takes Manhattan. Now, each of these movies have their strengths and weaknesses, which I will not go into because I would like to feel the touch of another human at least once more before I die. But I do think some audience members are feeling a little fatigued at seeing the same characters over and over again. And fear not, because I have a solution for fans who are looking for something beyond the Marvel and DC universes. And I hope some movie executives are watching this and taking notes. Because, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you next year's summer blockbuster, Johnny Strong. Now, you may notice that drawing is a little amateurish, and that is because Johnny Strong is a character that I created in 5th grade. By day, he is mild-mannered 5th grader John Olivier, no relation. But from the time school lets out until dinner, he becomes the, let's say, unconventionally handsome hero, Johnny Strong. Johnny Strong is a kick-ass hero with a bad attitude. He's seen a boob and he knows what the F word is. He intrepidly battles villains such as Doc Bedtime, a monster made of blankets who can magically plunge the world into total darkness. And of course, there's the dreaded Mrs. Thomas, the clarinet teacher. No, Mrs. Thomas, the clarinet is not the electric guitar of the mouth. You're a charlatan and I don't want to play it. I don't want to play it. Johnny doesn't want to play it. The whole Johnny Strong series is chock full of adventures that are begging to be adapted to the silver screen. And where better to start than with issue 1, which is called Night Moves. A title I did not realise was also the name of a Bob Seger song. Now, in Night Moves, an evil mutant monster has been breaking into the Olivier household at night, probably to steal the awesome rock collections of cool little boys. And Johnny Strong can't sleep, not because he's scared, he's very brave. He just can't fall asleep when there's injustice afoot. What's worse is that the grown-ups are rendered incapable of seeing this creature and are convinced that it is just the cat. But Johnny Strong knows better. So Johnny developed a plan. He stayed up late into the night, even though he was very tired from clarinet practice. Then, when he heard the mutant creep into his bedroom, he sprang out of bed in his suit of ultimate power, which, yes, looked a lot like a pair of footy pyjamas that you have to special order to fit a boy his size. He took out his mutant vaporizing laser, which is what a laser pointer is if you don't say pointer. And he chased the mutant down the stairs. The beast let out a terrified meow, which is what mutants do when they're scared, and recoiled from the laser's mighty beam. Johnny Strong chased the mutant out the front door, which he propped open with a rock in a move that, as an adult, I admit was probably unsafe. Then he shouted, "Be gone, mutant!" which woke up his baby sister, who started crying, probably tears of joy, at hearing that justice had been served. Now, is Johnny Strong finally celebrated as the hero he is? Does the monster ever return? We'll find out in issue 2, which is called Land of the Lost Cats posters. Now, that is it for now. Last Week Tonight returns September 25th. Until then, Hollywood, I am awaiting your call strongly. President Obama was overseas most of the week in Asia, where he received the traditional Japanese greeting, playing soccer with robots.
The president played soccer with a Simo. That's a humanoid robot.
And the president told students he thought the robot was a little bit scary.
To which the robot presumably replied, "Wait, I'm a scary robot? Why don't you ask the people of Pakistan which is scarier, me kicking a football charmingly or one of your flying death birds?" That said, nice to meet you. Nice. Hello and welcome to the internet. Unfortunately, there is no show this week, but the rest of the world does not stop randomly in our absence like a General Motors vehicle. So our obligation to bring you last week's news remains. Now, we are taping this on Sunday, May 18th, because, frankly, we didn't feel like coming in to the studio on our week off. That's what vacation means. But we sat down and we came up with some predictions that seem fairly safe for the news of next week that we can look back on as a last week, so you get the point. So here goes. Our top stories. Last week, LeBron James dunked a basketball. Forcefully, several times in front of Miami's largest collection of arseholes. Easy bet, right? That was just... the first one was easy. Additionally, an old rich man last week was accused of racism or sexism, and while trying to explain them away, only seemed more racist. I'm not sure who that was, but we haven't heard much from Donald Trump in a while, so I'm guessing it was him. In international news, last week's situation in the Middle East was, let's say, complicated. Those were all gimmies. Let's do some more difficult, speculative news. In Mexico, congratulations to the drug cartels, which last week celebrated killing their 1 millionth bystander. You regretted laughing at the setup there, didn't you? You wait for the punchline or you get burned. That's a huge teachable moment for you. Also, a bit of a shock from the Vatican as the Pope joined Tinder and listed his status as down for whatevs. Meanwhile, he's a new Pope. He's a refreshing change. Meanwhile, in Washington, America's most punk rock senator demanded answers about the 4 Americans lost in Fugazi. Where are they? Where are they? It's been ages since their last album, and Hillary Clinton has some answering to do. In sporting news, shocking news, as another NFL player came out last week, and then every other NFL player came out. It turns out the NFL has been entirely gay all this time. Yeah, I know. Yes, yes. In business news, GM is now recalling cars made by other companies just to even the playing field. In entertainment news, an actor pretending to be a war hero was applauded for his bravery. We all thank him for his pretend service. And a circus frightened as many children as it delighted. That's not so much news as just a very safe bet. And in your personal news, you cancelled on your aunt's Memorial Day cookout tomorrow because there's no way you're going to that thing. No way. Finally, tonight, the winning Powerball numbers were 13, 34, 7, 45, 51 and 20. Now, I realise that is a bold prediction to have made a week in advance, but holy shit, imagine if we nailed that one. Just imagine that. Yes! Thank you so much for watching this week. Feel free to watch more videos here on our YouTube channel or tweet at us at Last Week Tonight to tell us how accurate our predictions were. We'll be back next Sunday night with a new episode at 11 p.m. on HBO, unless, of course, we nailed the lottery numbers, in which case, fuck off and we will see you never. We don't need you. We're rich. We're rich. Join us next week. Good night. Hello there. I just want to take a moment to dip into our Last Week Tonight mailbag. Because, as you may recall, last week on this exact programme, I had a little bit of fun with some of the health claims made by Pom Wonderful.
If you know a man that you care about, or you are a man, make him drink 8 ounces of pomegranate juice a day, because what it does for prostate cancer is amazing.
Or really, just give him a pomegranate enema instead. Just shove a bottle of pomegranate juice up his arse and squeeze it. You'll be amazed at the results. I may or may not have then referred to their juice as snake oil and encouraged viewers to put stickers on their bottles suggesting their juice contains dogs. Well, a few days after that segment aired, and this is true, Pom Wonderful sent over a tiny refrigerator and several cases of their dog juice. Along with a letter. They sent a letter, and I would like to read a little bit, if I may. Dear Mr. Oliver, what fun. There's a full stop there, not an exclamation mark, and that's a key difference. We did love the premiere of your show. We know that a huge amount of heart and effort went into it for you and your team, passive-aggressive. And it was a great success, hypothetical. We know it will continue to grow and evolve, but what a wonderful start. You can taste the sarcasm on the page at this point. We even think that about the segment about Pom. We take these things in the spirit of good humour in which they're made. Partially. We like to think that we're able to take a joke. It was very funny. We laughed hard. And you're spot on with the problems in food advertising and labelling. You'll forgive us for offering just a few sentences of context. Here we go. We really have spent $35 million to finance world-class research on the health effect of pomegranates. That research isn't definitive, but it actually is promising. We think consumers know that they can't actually cheat death by drinking juice, and we think we'll win our appeal that the FTC totally overreacted to that kind of hyperbole. As for the idea of a pom enema, they say, we'll take it under advisement. They then continue, what you do with the cooler full of pom is your business. So let me just say to Pom Wonderful, kudos. That is a beautifully crafted letter because I seriously cannot think of a more elegant way to say, here's a crate of our product, go ahead and shove it up your arse. And look, if making fun of a product is the way to get a shipment of it, let me just say this for the record right now. Rolex makes terrible watches. Just the worst timepieces in the world. Please do keep your letters coming. Hello there, I'm John Oliver, host of HBO's Last Week Tonight. We have been banished from television until February, but much like celebrity death hoaxes, we'll be popping up on the internet intermittently until then. Now, you may remember a little while back we made a video featuring images generated by our extremely talented graphics department, which were unfortunately cut from our show before air. Things like this one of Paul Giamatti dressed as a mango, which I'm only really mentioning now so I can show you that again. Well, tonight, I bring you the lost graphics of Last Week Tonight, Part 2. Because many of these graphics were really excellent, and we had to cut them solely for reasons of time. For instance, in our episode about chicken farmers, we had to cut this image of a chicken with a haircut from the 90s, whose name, obviously, is Jennifer Aniston. As well as this chicken we named Heather Flocklear, and this one of basketball great Larry Bird. Chicken Bird. Those were just 3 of many we cut that week. Some graphics, it is clear why we had to make them, because, you know, they were never going to exist in real life, like this graphic of a Pope Francis brand condom, which is, of course, essentially just a wrapper with a wish inside. But other graphics, we were sort of amazed we had to make. For instance, this image of Jackson, Mississippi being overrun by alligators. There's no way that hasn't happened before. How did no one have a camera? Similarly, this image of Nicolas Cage agreeing to appear in a movie called Bark to the Future, presumably about a time-travelling puppy or tree. If that exact moment has not happened yet in life, statistically, it is about to. And finally, some graphics are actually illustrations of things we came up with that someone should absolutely manifest in real life, like this one of a Zamboni ambulance, or Zambulance, or this promotional poster for a real forklift operators of Reagan Airport. An imaginary show with a very classy tagline, go fork yourself. But I think my favourite lost graphic might be this one, a happy birthday dipshit card, which I truly wish were real, because sometimes, you know, it's someone's birthday and you want to acknowledge it, but also they're a total dipshit. And that's when this card would come in seriously handy. Last Week Tonight is back in February, and until then, I leave you with this picture of Gallagher about to smash a watermelon with my face on it, which we had to cut because it wasn't part of a story that we were doing. It was transcribed directly from a nightmare I had. And I also really leave you with this picture of a corgi playing a saxophone. We're back on February the 14th. Until then, goodbye! Hello there, YouTube. I'm John Oliver. Last Week Tonight is still not quite back on the air, and yet I'm still popping up here occasionally to ruin everybody's holidays. Why? Why? Because by now, everyone is probably sick of them. Hanukkah has come and gone, Christmas just passed, and as everyone knows, right now, we're just wrapping up Kwanzaa. And if you celebrate any of those holidays, you're undoubtedly exhausted. If you celebrate all of them, your last name probably has several hyphens in it. But tonight brings a holiday that unites all of us, no matter our religious background or ethnicity. And it unites us in hating it. And that's New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve is like the death of a pet. You know it's going to happen, but somehow you're never really prepared for how truly awful it is. New Year's Eve is the worst. It combines 3 of the least pleasant things known to mankind: forced interaction with strangers, being drunk, cold and tired, and having to stare at Ryan Seacrest for 5 solid minutes, waiting for him to tell you what the time is. Honestly, the best thing you can do is avoid the whole evening. And to do that, you're going to need some excellent and specific excuses. And this is where we come in. So first, here's a scenario. Let's say you have a friend who just got divorced and wants to hang out and do some guy stuff. This is a tricky one, because guy stuff, as we all know, is code for strip clubs. And you should absolutely not spend New Year's Eve in a strip club, unless Ebola goes airborne and the only cure is glitter. That's the only appropriate moment to do that. So, what you need to do, tell your friend that your cousin Paul Smecker has suddenly become ill and that he needs some of your bonezymes. Now, clearly, none of that's true. Bonezymes are a thing I just made up, and Paul Smecker is the name of Willem Dafoe's character in The Boondock Saints. And here's the thing, though. If your friend knows that offhand, cut him out of your life forever. That's a terrible movie. Either way, you're free. OK, so, second scenario. Let's say you've been invited to a party at a friend's house. Obviously, you don't want to go. That's a 5-hour commitment if you leave at 12:01. Think of it this way. Do you really want to sit on your friend's sofa and watch hummus turn brown all night? No, nobody does. So here's the trick, and this actually works for everything. New Year's Eve parties, it works for. Bar mitzvahs, wakes, it works for everything. Simply tell them you're doing a cleanse. Now, true. Here's the thing. Yes, you're right, that's not technically an excuse, but the beauty is there will be no follow-up questions because nobody wants to hear about your f***ing cleanse. Nobody. So you're out. You're out. Lastly, if you're invited out on a girls' night, I can't really help you, and I'll tell you why. I've never been asked to join a girls' night, which I think is because I'm such a Samantha and women are intimidated by my energy. That's what I'm guessing. But what I'm saying is, the best way to celebrate the spirit of New Year's Eve is by lying. The first line of Auld Lang Syne should be, should old acquaintance be forgot? And there's no better way of doing that than completely blowing off all your friends and family. And if you do this right, you will be in bed on New Year's Eve at 11:45 after watching all 5 Die Hard movies. Happy New Year to all of you. We will be back in 2015. Hello there, YouTube. I'm John Oliver. Last Week Tonight is still not quite back on the air, and yet I'm still popping up here occasionally to ruin everybody's holidays. Why? Why? Because by now, everyone is probably sick of them. Hanukkah has come and gone, Christmas just passed, and as everyone knows, right now, we're just wrapping up Kwanzaa. And if you celebrate any of those holidays, you're undoubtedly exhausted. If you celebrate all of them, your last name probably has several hyphens in it. But tonight brings a holiday that unites all of us, no matter our religious background or ethnicity. And it unites us in hating it. And that's New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve is like the death of a pet. You know it's going to happen, but somehow you're never really prepared for how truly awful it is. New Year's Eve is the worst. It combines 3 of the least pleasant things known to mankind. Forced interaction with strangers, being drunk, cold and tired, and having to stare at Ryan Seacrest for 5 solid minutes, waiting for him to tell you what the time is. Honestly, the best thing you can do is avoid the whole evening. And to do that, you're going to need some excellent and specific excuses. And this is where we come in. So first, here's a scenario. Let's say you have a friend who just got divorced and wants to hang out and do some guy stuff. This is a tricky one, because guy stuff, as we all know, is code for strip clubs. And you should absolutely not spend New Year's Eve in a strip club, unless Ebola goes airborne and the only cure is glitter. That's the only appropriate moment to do that. So, what you need to do, tell your friend that your cousin Paul Smecker has suddenly become ill and that he needs some of your bonezymes. Now, clearly, none of that's true. Bonezymes are a thing I just made up, and Paul Smecker is the name of Willem Dafoe's character in The Boondock Saints. And here's the thing, though. If your friend knows that offhand, cut him out of your life forever. That's a terrible movie. Either way, you're free. OK, so, second scenario. Let's say you've been invited to a party at a friend's house. Obviously, you don't want to go. That's a 5-hour commitment if you leave at 12:01. Think of it this way. Do you really want to sit on your friend's sofa and watch hummus turn brown all night? No, nobody does. So here's the trick, and this actually works for everything. New Year's Eve parties, it works for. Bar mitzvahs, wakes, it works for everything. Simply tell them you're doing a cleanse. Now, true. Here's the thing. Yes, you're right, that's not technically an excuse, but the beauty is there will be no follow-up questions because nobody wants to hear about your f***ing cleanse. Nobody. So you're out. You're out. Lastly, if you're invited out on a girls' night, I can't really help you, and I'll tell you why. I've never been asked to join a girls' night, which I think is because I'm such a Samantha and women are intimidated by my energy. That's what I'm guessing. But what I'm saying is, the best way to celebrate the spirit of New Year's Eve is by lying. The first line of Auld Lang Syne should be, should old acquaintance be forgot? And there's no better way of doing that than completely blowing off all your friends and family. And if you do this right, you will be in bed on New Year's Eve at 11:45 after watching all 5 Die Hard movies. Happy New Year to all of you. We will be back in 2015. We're back here with Pepe Julian Onzima, the human rights activist from Uganda. Let's talk about some of the details of US influence. We saw in the Morning Breeze clip that you were asked about recruitment, the recruitment that gays indulge in. Is this a widely held belief in Uganda, this recruitment?
It is, and it's Scott Lively that planted the whole idea of recruitment in my community, in my society. The organization that I work for, Sexual Minorities Uganda, was formed in 2004. And generally the political, social justice movement around sexual orientation and gender identity began like early 2000, maybe 2000, 2001. And the opposition we were facing at that time did not mention recruitment. It did not mention pedophilia. It was not that of persecution.
Right.
It was just either people ignoring us or writing glamorous stories about us. We saw a shift in 2007 when we had sort of a coming out campaign. We had a 45 days media campaign where we were going to TV stations, doing interviews with print media and radio. And immediately after we launched that campaign, SEMPA formed, SEMPA and other religious leaders, including Muslims, formed the coalition, the Rainbow Coalition against homosexuality.
The rainbow belongs to God. See? It's a catchy song. Hateful message, catchy song. Undeniably catchy tune.
True.
There's nothing more dangerous than a really catchy tune. Yes, that's the interesting thing. It wasn't just... in many ways, it kind of united extremist religious groups in Uganda, didn't it? Extremist Muslims, extremist Christians, they were all united around the very convenient scapegoat of LGBT members.
Yes, they did. And 2009, so from that time, we kept on seeing this resistance to us. And there was this huge backlash. And people started leaving the country, people went underground. But we kept on working. There was no closure of offices or raiding of our meetings and so on. And we saw that shift in 2009, March. After that seminar, the seminar was supposed to last for a week. It lasted, I think, officially for 2 weeks. Unofficially, Scott Lively was in the country for more than 2 weeks, a month.
It was like a hateful Hanukkah. It was supposed to last 1 week.
Yes.
It lasted for 2.
And during this time, he came with that doctrine that if you continue allowing activism, advocacy around sexual orientation and gender identity, you will have no generation. Because Homosexuals are here to recruit your children.
Right. This is also coming from the top down in Uganda, because President Museveni has argued that the West has cultivated homosexuality. He called it social imperialism. Do people in Uganda genuinely believe that we in the West invented homosexuality and franchised it like a Happy Meal?
Yes.
They really do?
They really do. President Museveni, I think, for some time before he actually signed the law, what we're seeing was a change in his attitude towards homosexuality. He very many different times said that homosexuals exist, but they've never been persecuted. And the persecution was disturbing him. He didn't understand where that was coming from until, I guess, when it became very catchy to continue persecuting homosexuals in Uganda. So I guess he jumped on the bandwagon as well.
What can we do? Because in the West, we like to think that we have the solution for anyone's problems overseas. So is there, I mean, we're trying sanctions now. Is there anything sanction or drone-based that we could do? Because we love those, because we can do those from here. We can stay, and then we can help you from Utah.
The US, let me tell you
That was such a long pause. That was such a consider. The US, look, do you think the sanctions are helpful or harmful?
In my opinion, very harmful.
Really?
Not just harmful, but very harmful.
Why? Why so?
Because I live on the ground.
Right.
Right? I know we issued guidelines on what people could do, and we're divided on this issue. There are people who believe that sanctions will work. Some believe it won't work, and I'm one of those people who believes that it doesn't work, because however targeted it is, we are the ones who end up suffering. I'll give you an example. In the recent sanctions, there's aid cut from community policing.
Right. And
we were trying, you know, we had laid grounds to engage the police, because we know the police is the immediate violator of LGBT people, arresting when the community call on them, and taking that money away from them, taking away that funding from them to continue community policing. Right. Endangers us. Why I say that is because in instances where the community is attempting mob justice, there's like police everywhere, so they come and intervene. When they intervene, the mob is away. They save you for that moment. Of course, they will take you in custody and treat you as a homosexual. But that initial reaction is very important. It's very important.
Now, let's just talk a little bit more about LGBT issues across Africa, because the anti-gay laws are not just in Uganda. They've spread across Africa. 37 African countries now have anti-homosexuality laws. How did this happen? Is this a question of religious principle, or is there a lot of domestic politics going on with this?
It's both. Actually, when you look at it, politics and religion are like so in bed together. There's religion that our communities hold very, very, very close. When it comes to other issues, from history, religion came from outside Africa. But why our African leaders and African, mainly leaders, hold so tightly onto it, and then they say homosexuality that has existed in Africa for long, they say that is from West, it becomes very...
But that is the most demonstrably false thing they could possibly say. You know, you can't say... There are anthropologists who have pointed out that in pre-colonial times, homosexual marriages were treated as equal to heterosexual marriages among the Azande people in the Central African Republic.
Politicians don't want to hear that.
But in Uganda, there were pre-colonial words in Uganda for homosexual that were not derogatory. What's clear is that homosexual...
I'm aware that my president actually agrees.
The crazy thing in researching this was realising that homophobia is not indigenous to Africa. Homosexuality has been there for, let's say...
Forever.
I was going to say 200 years, but sure, let's say... You're right, forever. Yeah. Forever. But homophobia has been introduced later.
Yes. I believe that homophobia is the very thing that is actually from outside Africa. The Bible came and different things happened. Whatever kept us together, something had to be used to divide us. So that there's this whole mess within the Ugandan or African settings, so that there's submission that is enforced in people, right? However much homophobia came from the West or came from Britain, I think we have to move beyond blaming people.
Right.
Yeah? We've been educated over the years. We are learning more about our history, and we know the truth. Yeah? But we are wasting our potential, we are wasting our intelligence, our human resource, our humanity, blaming people who have moved on. I think that's a waste of time, and we have to move on.
How have your family been through this? Are they frightened of your activism? Have they been supportive of you?
My family is great.
Oh, God, that's great. Really? That's good. That's awesome. I can't thank you enough, Pepe. I've been in researching this story this week. It's been because there are really happy things happening here regarding equality, and there has been a sad experience learning about our role in this. There's nothing we can do. You sure just one drone?
No drone.
Just one drone. One drone, Pepe.
No, thank you.
Well, you've not tried it. You can't say that. You've not tried it yet. It might help, you don't know. We'll get one drone. We're agreed. One drone, we'll try it. We'll just try it for the sake of it, Pepe. Thank you so much for being with us. Pepe Julian Alzima, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, Pepe. I can't thank you enough. That was awesome. Is that okay? Is that anything you'd like to say? Hello there, I'm John Oliver. Look, it's the middle of October, which across the nation means that we are all looking at this and thinking, I don't know why, but I simply have to drink that. Yes, it's that special time of year where we voluntarily imbibe pumpkin spice lattes, the coffee that tastes like a candle. And I don't mean it tastes like a candle smells. Pumpkin spice lattes taste like a candle tastes. Don't ask me how I know that. But what is strange is that pumpkin spice foods inexplicably seem to grow more omnipresent every year, even though there's no actual pumpkin in the drinks. Kind of like how everyone you meet calls himself a DJ all of a sudden, when what they really mean is that they own an iPad and have been to a party. But apparently, each American eats more than 5 pounds of pumpkin per year, which is more than the amount of pumpkin in 5 pumpkin pies. And pumpkin pie is the most seasonal food there is. It is only good from the moment Thanksgiving dinner ends until just after you have taken your first bite of it. 5 pounds of pumpkin a year is even crazier than the fact that we allegedly swallow 8 spiders in a lifetime. Why is it crazier? Because there is no way a pumpkin has ever crawled into my mouth while I was sleeping. And the worst part is, nobody wants anything pumpkin-flavoured from December through August. And here is how I know that. You can have it whenever you want. That bottle of pumpkin-flavoured science goo sits behind the counter of Starbucks all year round. Never aging, like Ryan Seacrest. Or the early work of Dr. Dre, which really holds up. It really holds up. Have you listened to The Chronic lately? Go back and do it. It's really great. It's great. Except for the sexism and homophobia, which is most of it. But that's not the point. It's really good. The point is, we tolerate pumpkin spice because we like the fall. It's the best season because you get to stop thinking about how weird your legs look in shorts. That's everyone, right? We all agree on that. But just about anything that reminds us of autumn is a better flavour than pumpkin spice. I personally, for instance, would rather drink a cable knit sweater spice latte or a Major League Baseball spice latte or a keen awareness of my own mortality spice latte because that's what foliage is. Although, look, it might be an acquired taste. That might be an acquired taste. Pumpkin spice is just eggnog for morning people, OK? And I will be subject to its tyranny no longer. It stops here. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode of Last Week Tonight. Until then, please ignore the news and continue to drink regular coffee. Good night. Hello there, I'm John Oliver, host of Last Week Tonight. We are off until February, but with the holiday season now underway, we thought we'd share some important advice regarding exchanging gifts with friends and family. Because during the holidays, you are going to receive at least one profoundly underwhelming gift. That's just a fact. At some point this month, you will unwrap a present that induces the sort of jaw-dropping disappointment that one normally associates with the term lettuce wrap. For instance, you might receive a scented candle, which is just a candle that's extra desperate for attention. Or maybe you'll get an edible arrangement, which says, I don't know you very well, but if you're anything like me, you have to eat or else you'll die. Or maybe you'll get a stuffed animal, which is essentially just a creepy ornament you have to reposition before you can comfortably have sex. And that is why I am here with a handy holiday guide to the art of regifting. Just the easiest way to pawn off something that you can't stand, aside from sending your child to summer camp. First of all, never regift to someone who knows the original gifter. It's incredibly uncomfortable to get busted ditching something that was clearly meant for you, whether it's an ugly sweater or, worst case scenario, an engagement ring. Worst case scenario. You are going to want to create some distance. So the ideal place for a regift is clearly an office secret Santa, because regifting there is like peeing in the ocean. Sure, it's not right, but it's an ultimately harmless solution to an urgent problem. Secondly, you're going to want to personalise it. Write a note to throw the recipient off the scent that this gift was not originally meant for them. Something intimate yet vague, like, saw this and couldn't resist, or this is so you. Although I will say, do be warned, that could backfire if the original gift could be potentially insulting, like a self-help book or maybe a box of wine. Really? Really? You saw this box of wine and you thought of me? I'm 3 months sober and you're an arsehole, Nana! You're an arsehole! Next, you're going to want to disguise the gift to maximise your plausible deniability. A horrible gift, much like your pet, always looks better when dressed up. And if you're going to regift, have the decency to rewrap. It looks more festive, and it spares you from walking into a party and announcing, hey, I brought you an appliance I didn't want. Where's the eggnog? If you're not going to rewrap, at the very least, though, use a gift bag. And I'll tell you why. Gift bags are the sweatpants of gift wrapping. Sure, it's lazy, but it's undeniably better than not putting on anything at all. Finally, and this one is very important, keep yourself to a single regift per person. Do not, I repeat, do not attempt to redistribute all of your gifts amongst your friends and family like a festive Ponzi scheme. You're flying too close to the sun, and when your wings melt, they'll probably smell like a cranberry bog because